Now, that brings me to a total of 5,000.
Hi there, my name is Zach, and I have the goal of reaching the Brisbane Olympics 2032 marathon. Now, as you can see on the screen right here, these are my current PBs, and I'm a long way from making that dream a goal. But I'm hoping, with a lot of determination, patience, and hard work, that I can make it. I would love it if you guys could join me on my journey to go from a below average runner, to a pro. With that said, let's get into today's video.
Have you ever wondered what it costs to be a long distance marathon runner? Now, I only do about 10 hours a week, but I'll be building that up to a 13-hour average next year, and then the year after, it'll be 15 hours plus. If you look at what the pros do, they average about 17 to 19 hours of running per week. Now, what I want to do is show you how much it costs me at the moment to do a 10-hour training week. Because I think you might be surprised how much it actually costs to be a runner. Now, when I think about these costs, I'm not happy with how much I'm spending. However, it is still cheaper than if I were a triathlete like I was before. So in this grand scheme of things, I'm saving money, but it's not cheap. So what I'll do is I will go through every different product category I use on a day-to-day basis, and then finally I'll give you the total. Let's start with something that every runner should be using if you're not already. That is gels. Now, I'm a Winners user. These are a Melbourne-based company and they taste fine. They taste good. The reason I use them, however, is they're cheap. So I use about 7 gels per week. Now, each gel costs, so I buy them in packs of 90. I get the bulk pack. And now that 90 costs me $150, which means each gel essentially costs me $1.67. Now, over the course of a week, using 7 gels a week, that's $11.67. Or over the course of the year, $608 in gels. Next up, just because I use up a lot of gels during the week, I try and get something else in my training nutrition. And I've been going on to these SIS chews. Now, this is the orange flavor, but I mainly use the lemon. Prefer the lemon over the orange. Now, these chews, I try and use them a bit sparingly, so I use about 3 a week, mostly in my long run sessions. So each chew costs me about $4.30, significantly more than a gel, which is why I keep them as limited use as possible. Now, using 3 over the course of the week, that brings to about $12.90 per week for the chews, which is $672.64 per year. My main source of training carbs is through liquid nutrition in a bottle. Now, how do I fill up that bottle? So the carbs in that drink is maltodextrin, and I'm a big fan of Bulk Nutrients. They are a local company here. They're based in Tassie, and it's always good to support Australian companies, for an Australian, over these international companies. Most of the stuff I bring up in the rest of this video will come from them. Got to support local. Maltodextrin is unflavored, and so because of that, I add in these new ones from them, which is hydration salts. Now, one bottle of hydration salts will be enough for one of these 2 kilos of maltodextrin, which costs about $65 for the pair. Now, I can get about 40 bottles from that, which means each bottle costs me $1.67. I use about 7 bottles for the week, so it costs me $11.38 a week, or $593.13 a year. I try and get about 90 grams of carbs per hour in my nutrition. That means when I'm doing 10 hours of training, I'm looking for about 900 grams of carbs per week. This is obviously going to fluctuate over time. If I do 11 hours, I need another 90 grams of carbs, which is another 3 gels or 2 chews. If I'm doing 15 hours, I need even more training nutrition. If I get to 20 hours, which is my ultimate goal, I basically need to double what I'm currently intaking for my training nutrition, which also means doubling the amount of money I'm spending per week. Now, next up is something that not all runners do, and I've only gotten into it in the last, say, 6 months or so, and that is a pre-workout. Now I use this one, I just got it from Bulk Nutrients, and so it cost me about $40 for the pre-workout. There's 30 servings in that one, so it roughly comes to $1.33 per serving. Now I will do about 5 to 6 training runs a week, which means it'll cost me $8 per week in pre-workout, or $417.14 per year. Next up, I'm going to talk about another supplement that most runners don't use, but I think that they're starting to get into it, and that is creatine. Now, I use creatine from Bulk Nutrients, and this bag cost me $42. However, I can get about 150 servings from that bag, which is about 28 cents per day, or $1.96 per week, or about $102 per year in creatine. Super cheap for the performance gains of creatine. The final supplement I use is protein. Now, this protein costs me about $50, and I get about 20 servings of it, which means it roughly costs me about $2.50 per serving. Now, I use 14 servings per week. That's right, 14 servings. It essentially is my replacement for my breakfast, and I have one in the afternoon just to tide me over so I don't start snacking. So essentially it costs me $35 per week in protein, or about $1,825 per year. It's a big expense. However, I use it a lot for food. So it's my breakfast and it is my afternoon snacks. While it's the most expensive item I've said, it pays for itself. The final thing that I spend money on is shoes. Now, because I do about 10 hours a week, that equates to roughly about 2,500 kilometers per week. So I've assumed I replace my shoes roughly every 500 kilometers, which means I use about 5 sets of shoes per year. Now, I'm rounding this I've rounded every single item so far, but I'm assuming each pair of shoes costs about $300. So over the course of the year, it means shoes is costing me about $1,500 a year. Now, obviously, shoes is something where you could push it a bit further. You could go 750 to 800K for a set of shoes. A lot of my shoes behind me down here, they are getting close to that level. But I've just used it as more of a ballpark because some don't last that long. I've got a set of Salomons that I'm kind of like 200K in and I'm not enjoying them at all. So it really depends on the shoe and the brand. So it costs me $1,500 in shoes per year. When it comes to the number of shoes, so I've also got just 5 in there because I'm assuming I'm doing about 2,500K a year. As I get faster and as I do more, obviously I need more shoes. Now 100K running per week, which is roughly what I've managed to get myself up to for my 10 hours, is about 5,000K a year, which would be 10 sets of shoes at 500K each. So why did I use $300 as my estimate for my shoes? I've been looking recently at getting some new ones, and I was looking at the Asics Mega Blast and the Asics Super Blast 2. They both cost over $300, $320 for the Super Blast and $340 for the Mega Blast. So I know the Nova Blast, which I use at the moment, is $240. So I'm just roughly, maybe get Mega Blast and a Super Blast, and it evens out to $300. Now, that brings me to a total of $5,718.44 per year. Almost $6,000 to run 2,500K a year or 10 hours a week. It's not a small amount of money, is it? What I haven't included in my spending is races, race entries, race travel, accommodation, because that is all highly variable. For example, let's look at Sydney Marathon. I have entered that. I'm not sure if I've actually got an entry place yet. By the time this video comes out, I will know. But I paid $300 for accommodation. I've already pre-booked. And then the race was about $300, $600. I can drive there. It's going to be super cheap. I am also doing Brisbane Half Marathon. I think it was $200 for entry. Then I had to pay $1,000 for flights, $600 for accommodation. It's like 4 times the cost for me to go to a Brisbane half than it is to go to the Sydney Marathon Major. So each race is individual. If you look at the Goulburn races recently, it cost me $70 and I live here. Great. If you look at the Canberra race, it cost me put $200, I'm staying the night, so it's fine, not a couple $100 there. Basically, it depends on how many races I do and which way I go. Obviously, if I want to go to Tokyo, it's going to be a $10,000, easily $10,000 trip to have my wife and son there as well. If I want to go to the US, which I'm never going to the US, I assume it'll be at least 15, 20 grand. So I haven't included in that budget, but you can see everyone is spending. It is ridiculous how much money people are spending. With that in mind, I do not make any money from these videos yet. So please help me get to 1,000 subscribers and I can get monetized. And it can help subsidize the $6,000 in yearly average cost, plus these race entries and training and travel. So please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys next week.